So it's March break, 1992.
Our parents tell us we're going on vacation for spring break.
3 weeks later, they tell us we live here now.
Welcome to Borderline Brilliant.
Yeah, so that happened. It was 1992, and I was in sixth grade.
Yeah,
And
you were
you
in
were,
sixth, I was in
yeah,
fifth.
yeah. And I was excited because I was like, ooh, we get to go like further into the US because usually we went to like Buffalo and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to go to Tennessee. Our friends, we have a friend that lives in Memphis. And I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, I don't know where that is, but that's fine. We'll go check this place out. And then, we get to Memphis, and Dad's like, oh, my friend's not here. He's actually in Johnson City, Tennessee, which is now 8 hours away. And I don't know how long it took us to get to Memphis, but I know it was at least 12 hours. And I was not
Yeah.
excited about the fact that now we're going to have to go another 8 hours to get to Johnson City. Because I also did not realize how long Tennessee was at the time. And I was like, 8 hours? I'm like, how the hell is that possible? Like, we just drove here for how long, and now it's going to take us that long. But that's, yeah. And then we ended up going to Johnson City, Tennessee. And they were like, oh, like I was like, first I was like, oh, cool. They extended our spring break, and we were there 2 weeks, and then we're there 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I'm like, I'm not in school. Who cares? And then they dropped
Yeah,
the
we
bomb.
did that a lot. We missed a
Yeah,
lot of school
exactly.
back
They
in
were
the day.
they were not they were
You
not that
know?
concerned about us missing school.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that was
Like
crazy.
months at a time, going here, going there. It was all right. And there wasn't even like that, okay, you have catch up work to do. No, we just took off and then came back and everything was okay. So
And
we barely
yeah,
knew where Memphis, Tennessee was. And for anyone who doesn't know, it's a really, pretty large city. It's a mega, transportation hub and all that. It's pretty central with the highways and everything. Like, there's a lot of stuff moving through Memphis, Tennessee. Johnson City, Tennessee is quite the opposite. And we're coming from the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, which is humongous, and they call it the GTA because Toronto basically swallowed up all the boroughs, all the cities and towns around it to become like a mega city type thing. And so you go from that to Memphis, good sized city, this, that, and the other, but then JC, Tennessee, which is gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. But back then, we knew nothing about any of this stuff. And we just literally went to the tiniest town. And the mall in Johnson City, Tennessee is called The Mall at Johnson City. Like, it's not some fancy name, Woodlands, Highlands. No, it's called The Mall. So, yeah, that's what we were working with. And yeah, so we went out there and checked that out. And then basically, Dad's friend was there in the midst of a business deal. And somehow we got intertwined with that business deal. And then next thing you know, Dad purchased his first hotel. And we were now going to be moving to Johnson City, Tennessee.
yeah, that was crazy. I remember like being like, what? Are you crazy? Like, how?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't even a possibility. And all of a sudden, I'm like, now we're like, we're just gonna move. We're not even leaving the city or the province, because that's what they call them, guys, in Canada.
Hmm. For
We're
state.
leaving, yeah, or states, like comparable states. We're leaving the whole damn country where our whole entire family lives. Our dad
Like
is
hundreds
one
of
of,
people.
yeah, like our dad's one of nine siblings, all of their families, all of our cousins, everything. And we're just going to move to this town, which, I mean, it was very nice. People were super nice. But we were like one of a handful of brown people that were going to be there, basically. Like,
Yeah, I mean the people are amazing. Let's like
yeah.
establish that right off the hop. Like John City, Tennessee was an absolute blessing, in hindsight and the folks there and everything. But it was a massive culture shock
Yeah.
when we first got there. And, we really did very much kind of live in our bubble there in Canada, not due to cultural things, because of course we were even there, in the minority, right? Like amongst others that were there, but we just had so much family, as you alluded to. You know what I mean? So we spent a lot of time just having family parties at the house or going to other ones, and just like a lot of our free time was very much so with family and things of that nature. So not just brown people in general, but just literally being with our huge extended family there. That was part of our identity, our DNA, And then coming here, all of that was all but severed, going to Johnson City. And of course, there was some, community there and stuff like that. And dad had some friends and stuff there. No family, but friends. And it very much turned into family, eventually. But, our days, our weeks, our months very much changed from the people that we were the most familiar with to being in a completely foreign land and everything. I mean, the biggest I remember when I started sixth grade there, and one of my guys ended up being a really good buddy of mine, Aaron. When I first went to middle school there, he's like, "Hey man, say something in Canadian," and I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, say something in
I remember.
Canadian," and I was like, "Okay, what do you want me to say?" He's like, "Just whatever, whatever, say anything," and I'm like, "No, no, you tell me. What do you want me to say in Canadian?" And he's like, I don't know, say, "Hi, my name is Mandeep." I was like, "Okay, are you ready?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Hi, my name is Mandeep." He's like, "That's not Canadian, that's American." I'm like, "Bro, it's called English." Like, he's like, "Wait, don't they speak?" I was like, "Well, yes, they do speak French. That is also, one of the official languages and stuff like that. But there's no such thing as Canadian. Like, they speak English and French over there." So I was just like, I went home and I was like, "Dude, where are we? Like, what is going on? Like, this is wild."
Yeah, it was. And it was funny because people would be like, they loved my accent because it was different than theirs, right? Which I
Yeah.
thought was funny because I didn't think I had an accent until that point. And
Mm.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't have an. They're like, no, the way you say mum and you say a
Just
and
mean, what are
things
you
like
talking
that.
about?
Yeah.
Canadian
I
humor
mean,
guys, don't worry about it.
I wish I had recordings of us back then because, like, obviously it would have sounded very different. And I
Yeah, I
think,
can only imagine.
yeah, I can only imagine because we're both, I think, chameleons in the way we speak because
Yeah.
of having lived in so many different
Code
places.
switch constantly,
Yes.
depending upon
Yeah.
where I'm at.
Yeah. Like, even if I talk to my friend now, Amber, who I still, like, keep in touch with, I will get back my Tennessee
The
accent.
twang, a little bit of twing twang. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so it's very funny to even now that where if I start talking to her, yeah, I'll be like talking, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's just yeah, so it's very
Shit, I
interesting. But
used to have, like, when I'd go back to Toronto a lot, we'd go back there and, even into my 20s and stuff like that, I'd go back a lot and whatnot, and I'd pick up, the Toronto accent and stuff like that and just talking that way. I can't do that anymore. That accent has gone so far off the deep end. I I can't.
yeah,
I'm just not even going to attempt it because I'm a grown man and I'm not going to speak that way. I don't know what's going on over there. But yeah.
yeah, it was crazy, and I think the craziest thing was is that one, I mean, I couldn't even believe, like, mom and dad were always very adventurous about, obviously, moving. We move so much within Canada, which Canadians do not do. And then the fact that it still did shock me that they want, I was like, wow, you want to move to the States now? Wow, okay, all right, that wasn't enough. But like now, even looking back at it, it was not only that, but I remember when we first moved there, because like first off, we didn't get to move there right away. Dad moved there because then we had to, there's a whole process, as you all know, about immigration and doing all this stuff, getting visas and all these things. So we didn't move there until this summer afterwards, so we could finish up school and then move down there. But then it was also like housing. And then, because guys, guess what? When you buy a property, you can live in it. And we're desi. So they're like,
Yeah.
it's good. We can live there until we figure out a housing situation.
Right
And
off
I
the
remember,
main office, the front desk, there was an apartment. There was there was the main office, and Right there, built into it, was a couch seating area, and then adjacent to that was a small corridor where there was restrooms, and just past that was the entrance to our new home,
Mm-hmm.
our
Yeah.
ensuite, right there connected to the main office, the front desk. So that
Yep.
was just.
One bedroom, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
with four people and two of them being like 12 and 13. So not like we
Mm-hmm.
were little at that point, you know? It was crazy. There was so much change. And I remember one time we were like trying to play basketball, whatever, you know, outside in the like driveway area. And, mom's like, you guys can't do that anymore. We're getting guest complaints. And I was like, oh my God, where do we live? Like, I can't even believe this. Because it was such a huge culture shock. And it was also huge, like, the fact that we went from living in a house in a super nice neighborhood to like now we live there. Like we live in this one bedroom apartment and and then we have no family. We don't know anybody there, which was crazy to think about. And I remember thinking, I was like, this is insane. I can't even believe we're doing this. And then we got upgraded because then they let us
Mm-hmm.
have room there, like because obviously there's so many rooms. So we got
Like
we
hundreds. It was a
yeah,
huge property, in fairness.
yeah, and
Multiple
we could just
buildings.
have a room. That
Yes.
was
Yeah.
across from the office, so they could basically make sure that we were safe there. That was
Dude.
insane too.
The funniest thing, I have one of the funniest stories that ever happened. I remember, so of course, being a hotel, it's got like HBO and Cinemax and all that kind of stuff and all whatnot. And, we used to get those guides because back in the day, there was no apps. There was like this guide of what was coming on. It was not like choose your own adventure, it was whatever was on. And I remember Tango and Cash was coming on, and I really wanted to watch Tango and Cash. And then so I was in the main apartment or whatever, and I showered this, that, and the other, and I was like, I need to go to my room. I got to go do some stuff, whatever. And then I like run over to my room and I put on Tango and Cash, and it happened to be this scene where they're literally in like a strip club and there's strip club activities going on, and all of a sudden my phone rings and it's one of the old school bring bring bring, and I pick it up and it's mom, and she's like, that's why you want to go to your room, huh? That's why you want to go to your room. And I'm like, oh my god, mom, get out of here, you're ruining it. It
Yep.
was hilarious because of course the same shit's on every channel, and she's like, what is this kid up to, why does he need to go to his room? And
Listen,
then
they
she
were up.
started.
I mean, that was, I think,
Oh,
the best thing for them at that age. They basically could be up our asses all the
mm-hmm,
time as much as
mm-hmm.
they wanted to because we were so trapped, which is
Yeah,
crazy to think about it
yeah,
now. Like, oh my gosh.
yeah. That was wild. And she wasn't wrong. But
No,
at the
not at
same
all.
time, I'm like, this is a violation, lady. Why are you watching this? This is
Uh-huh.
hardcore.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when we finally ended up moving out and moving into a house, and I was like, thank God. Because it's funny, I don't know how long, like now looking back, I don't know how long we lived there. I don't think it was super long, but it felt like a lifetime when we were there because it
Well, we
was,
just had
again,
so much happen,
yeah.
with moving and being there and taking on a whole new culture and identity, really. So, yeah, it was like trial by fire. So, I don't know however long it was, just like you're saying. I don't believe it was that long, but it felt like an eternity because we went through a lot. Just, you know, acclimating to a whole new country and everything. So yeah, it was wild. Like it would not have been anywhere near as wild if we had moved to Buffalo, New York, or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, or like anything of that nature, because everything's pretty similar. But I mean, this is going down south. From up in Toronto. So yeah, it was definitely big, 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 big changes. Like I said, the people were amazing. I mean, they were really cool, and I love Tennessee to this day. It holds a really special place in my heart. People over there were incredibly kind and very welcoming, and we had so much fun out there. I mean, we lived there for a long time, and probably a lot of who I am was forged there for sure. And I'd say it was a very, endearing spirit for sure. But wow, was it a shock at that time?
It was. I mean, it's interesting because I remember everyone, well, not everyone, but now especially people when I tell them, oh, I was born in Canada and grew up in Toronto and then moved to Tennessee. they always assume that, oh, what was that like? What was Tennessee like? They always assume that Tennessee must have been the harder place, like racially, to grow up in, and it was not. Toronto was way harder. It was way more issues than like people, because the thing about Toronto is, and I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, Canadians are so nice. Okay, guys, fine, yes, they are. But when you live there, it's a very different experience, let me tell you that. And it's very, what do you call it, like in pockets. People do not, it is not a melting pot. They do not mingle, they do not mix together, they stay with their own. They find their own community wherever that is, and then they stay within that. And our parents, being the trailblazers that they were, wanted to always like live in the better area, which meant that obviously we were a minority. And overall there was less, there was a lot fewer minorities, period, because of that. And so we always had to deal with, I feel like at least from my experience, dealt with a lot more racism there than I did in Tennessee. People were curious about me in Tennessee, but they never made me feel less or different or anything like that. And I remember when I was in college, I went to visit my friend who lived in one. Can you imagine a small, even smaller city in the mountains? And I want to say it's Roan Mountain, but I can't remember if that's for sure true. But anyways, I went there, and so we're sitting there. Her parents had the local like grocery store and like snack shack, like literally like that was the main attraction in their little town. And people would come, and I'd be like, oh my God, they're like staring at me, like are like why, like kind of like I thought it was a negative thing. And she's like, no, she's like, they are looking at you because they're so like mesmerized by you. They think you're so pretty because a lot of these people have never seen anyone that's not white. Like they don't even
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what that's like for them. So she's like, no, don't take it in a negative way. It's actually a positive thing. And it was really interesting because when we lived in DC and we would go back like another time when we lived like as my family after I got married, we lived in DC and then we would drive to Charlotte to come visit mom and dad. My husband would always be like, oh, he's like, everyone's staring at us. I'm like, they're curious. A lot of these towns are so small, they know everyone. So when they see you come into their local establishment, whether that's like the diner or whatever, they're not looking at you because they're judging you or they're being racist. They're just curious because a lot of these people have not seen anyone that's different than them. So yeah, they're curious to know who you are, but it's not in a negative way, and you shouldn't feel uncomfortable. I think that's one of the biggest things I think I took away from living in Tennessee is that I give people the benefit of the doubt in that sense, where I think before it was just so different in the sense that I felt like because it was valid to me in Canada. Like people, I mean, I remember in Canada, people called our house a Packy Palace, which was terrible. I never ever had that. In Tennessee, the worst I ever got was this one guy in high school was like, "You're confused," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, you're not white and you're not black. You're like, you're brown. You're like in the middle." And I was like, "Okay, I mean, there are other races in the world, right? Like I know you don't see many here, but but it was like more of a joke, and I get it. It's, people can take it however they want, but for me, that was nowhere near what I experienced, like the stuff that we used to growing up where people were deliberately picking on our home and on us living there.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo a lot of that same sentiment. And, you and I, we've always, like, it was even hard for us to come to the acknowledgement and understanding that we are, I guess, immigrants or like minority type thing, because I don't know, we never really felt that way, especially growing up in Tennessee. There was never that feeling of outsiders or this, that, and the other. Like, I mean, we're talking about culture shock from moving there, but that's just literally cultures, kind of like two totally polar opposites, literally from north to way down south type thing. But there was never that feeling of not belonging or not being welcome or anything of that nature. And I think you put it really well, is that, like, America is a melting pot where we all, stir into one, super sauce, you know what I mean? Like Americana. And Canada, they say it's a mosaic. It's not a melting pot. It is a mosaic. And And part of that means that literally everyone does hold on to their identity, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, I'm not saying you should forget who you are, where you came from, but everyone should integrate into a common culture. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I like about the melting pot approach versus something like a mosaic. So it's good if people share and intermingle and experience one another's things. I think that's a very good thing. But the problem is when it becomes very pocketed and very tribal and things of that nature, where I think that was there. And yeah, and I mean, this isn't about race baiting or anything of that nature. We're just being completely honest. And yeah, in Canada, we definitely faced a lot more of that in hindsight, you know, and we didn't really think about it then because we were a lot younger. You know, we didn't know all these buzzwords and all that kind of stuff. We just kind of knew how uncomfortable certain things would be. And if I'm being honest, it seems like where there's more and more of a concentration of a culture and more of that compartmentalization happens, that's where the stigmas and the, you know, racism or whatever you want to call it is, because there's less intermingling of folks and things of that
There's
nature,
less
more
diversity. Yeah.
fracturing. Yeah,
Hmm.
so it's like it's diversity in the number of people and types of people, but not in groups, not in, you know, places. It's kind of like just it's fractured. And so then there is that when you don't have that interaction, you don't have that whatever because you're kind of staying to your own or this, that, and the other. That's when you can judge people and you can do this and that out of ignorance. You know what I mean? Like you just because you don't know them, you don't have that interaction outside of school. You know, but in school too, most of your day is very structured. You're right in class or in this or that and the other. So you're still not getting to really know someone or do something like that if you're not going to hang out outside of it or do anything like that. Whereas in Tennessee, you know, there's so few of us and of others and whatever that we're absolutely a part of everything every day, whether it's in school, out of school, parties, whatever, you know, everyone is mingling with everyone. And that's why it was awesome because people really got to know you as you and you got to know them as them without this kind of clique stuff or whatever, especially associated with your color or your culture or anything like that, because it wasn't enough of us. You know what I mean? So it was just the way it was going to be. So I can definitely say yes. Like I said, to me, I absolutely loved every minute of being in Tennessee. There was never a time I felt like I didn't belong for the reason of my skin color or my religion or anything of that nature. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, it was a personal issue between me and this other guy
Yeah.
or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just life. That's whatever. So, yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing place to grow up and be, and
It
so
was.
blessed
It's
that we
so
went there.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So pretty. Like we could go skiing there, like in,
Hit up Sugar Mountain all the time, and I
yeah,
mean,
Sugar
it was
Mountain.
like an
Yeah.
hour drive or something, dude.
Hmm.
We would just
It is. It's
hop in the
gorgeous. Like
car, me and
ice.
my buddies, or you know, you and
Yeah.
yours, and we would just go, and it was so cheap. It was amazing. It was probably like $30. I don't know. I don't even remember now how much it was. All I know is it was like super duper reasonable, and we would just go, and it was like, okay, it's not Colorado or the Alps or something like that. You know what I mean? But it was like solid. It wasn't like in Canada we had Chinguacousy Ski Hill,
Yeah.
literally a park that had a hill because it used to be a garbage dump and they
Yeah.
covered that garbage mound with dirt and grass, and then that hill in the winter would be snowed over, right, and then you could ski there,
I
like
remember that. Yeah.
literally, I don't know, not even 100 meters. Like, it was nothing. It was just this little hill. You ski to the bottom, and if you were like me and you didn't know how to ski before, guess what, a car would stop you because literally it went down to a parking lot, and then boom, that's you either bailed like I did or you skied into a car. There was no mountain there, and of course Canada has amazing skiing, Banff and here and there. You know what I mean, like out over in the west and stuff. But there in Tennessee, you have the Appalachian Mountains. So yeah, when it was wintertime, that was amazing. I mean, they had lakes, they had reservoirs, forests, the Smoky Mountains, beautiful drives and vistas. Like, it was really
I mean,
cool.
even where we lived, you could go just within you just saw the mountains. Like it was so pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, I can still like visualize that now. If I close my, I can still see it going between like even Johnson City and like Elizabethton. it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. And like
Yeah.
even driving out of there, like going, whether you go
I used
north
to
or
love
south.
going on drives, you know, like I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
I would just love just going out into the country and just
Yeah.
put on some music and just go out and just drive, you know, because it was real country. It was real country out there. And so, I mean, and another testament to that with the keggers, you know what I mean? Literally, you just be like, yeah, you take a left here, right here, you drive down, you make whatever, and you'd be lost as shit. Like, I don't know where the hell I am. Then all of a sudden you'd see all these headlights, and you're like, okay, I made it. You know what I mean? And it'd just be a kegger in the middle of a field. And it'd be awesome, middle of nowhere, nobody bugging you, and it was just the way it was.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's yeah, it was one of the I for me, and I think you agree with this. It was it is one of the best decisions I think mom and dad made is moving there.
Absolutely. It seemed insane at the time. It was out of nowhere. And it was a massive shock to the system because, as you said, we also moved around quite a bit in Canada, right? Like, I mean, from the time we were born to, you know, Tennessee, several moves had taken place. Several moves, several cities, you know, several homes within a city. Like, we were movers and shakers, but this was crazy. But yes, the
Yeah,
most beneficial and best place I think as a family we ever had, where we thrived the most, hell, spiritually,
absolutely.
financially,
Yeah.
everything, every which way.
I think the craziest thing was when we moved there. Obviously, you and I were not happy about it, mainly because we miss the family. Even now, I was having that
Yeah,
conversation with Jag, and I was telling him, I was like, honestly, the biggest thing I miss is our family. Like the other stuff I didn't care about, but I was like, I definitely miss not having them around all the time because we have such a great family and they're so huge. But I also understood the complexities that come with that came for our parents. But I remember like years after that, I don't know how long it had been, but mom and dad were basically telling us how miserable they were when we first moved
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And I remember being like, what? I'm like, they're like, because we used to go back. Wasn't we were going back like once a month or something, or I don't even
Pretty
know. We
often,
went,
especially in the beginning, we went back
yes, in the
quite a
beginning,
bit.
we were
Yeah,
going to Toronto, 12-hour drive, guys, like constantly, because now it makes sense. We just thought they were being like very generous with us and letting us go back. But it was because they missed it too. And I remember when they finally told us, we were older at that point, we had been there for a while, and they were like, yeah, we hated it too. And I was like, what, you hated it too? I'm like, it didn't show. Like, I literally had no idea that they hated it there. I thought they were really super happy. And they were like, well, but we couldn't tell you that because then, you would be mad at us being like, well, why'd you move us here if you hated it? But obviously, in hindsight, I understand why they moved us there. It was the best decision for us as a family on so many levels. And it really made like us who we are now, having that experience living there. It's just so different because I can't imagine the person. I feel like I lived in a bubble when I lived in Canada, and I would never have seen that had I not left. But just the experiences I had, the music that I was exposed to, the people that I was exposed to, again, more
classic
diversity.
rock for life. That would have
Yeah,
never
like
happened in
everything. It's
Toronto.
like,
Yeah.
all the things. And, I mean, it's just was a different experience than I would have had if I had just stayed in Canada my whole life. Like it would have been I would have been a completely different person. Like I genuinely feel that.
And that wasn't within our power, and that's why we got to appreciate mom and dad for that, right? For making
Yeah,
that move and whatever.
yeah,
And you know, the I don't know, just like we even have family now in Texas, you know, and they are also another, let's say, splinter group that left, you know, much later and whatnot. But obviously a lot younger than mom and dad and them. But you know, they also moved, and they also kind of echo the same sentiments that mom and dad said eventually. You know, that like just it's so much more freeing and so much more being able to live your own life. You know, we didn't consider mom and dad at that time. We just considered our own thing. But like just the amount of family obligation you have in Toronto, like literally no week. We used to think like, oh, this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like for us, it was great. We just every weekend was like a party or a get together or something like that. But when you think about it from an adult perspective, you have no choice in the matter because if you attend this person's function, you have to attend that person's function. If you attend in this person's prayer, you have to be at that person's prayer. This wedding, that wedding, this, and you don't. It's a personal affront. It's like, oh my God, you went to theirs, you didn't go to mine. It's like, like it was just
Yeah.
you didn't have any time for yourself to slow down and smell the roses or just be with your immediate family. Like you were called to the carpet for like every family function of everything. And so, even like I said, our family in Texas now are just like, it's so amazing to be here and kind of have our own life and pick our own kind of friends and social circles and, want to do this, want to go golf on the weekend, want to just go shopping, want to just hang out and watch TV, just do whatever, just not have these 37 obligations. And that's not just each weekend, that's like 5 things in a day, you know what I mean, that you have to hit sometimes because it's just, especially summer months and things like that, when everybody's doing, you got to hit multiple weddings, multiple like prayers, multiple, I don't know what. A guy gets a restaurant or gets a this or gets a that. Well, we're gonna have a prayer. We're gonna have like a whole event, Kids born, we're gonna have to have one of those. This like anything, birthdays, weddings, deaths, it doesn't, you name it, and there needs to be a whole big get together and just too many people, too much concentration in one place, and you can't live your own life, you're living for everyone else.
Yeah, I agree. What's what's one thing, or I guess like one piece of advice or one thought you would give to someone who is maybe lived in one place their whole life or is considering maybe making that leap of faith to somewhere else? Like what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, for me, right, like I can only look at it with hindsight, and as you said, is the best thing that ever happened to us, just kind of getting out of that bubble. So I would absolutely encourage it and say embrace it and, take that leap of faith. And then you can always go home, but like get out there, test the water, see what it is. It's going to be maybe uncomfortable at first, a shock at first, but you're going to grow so much as a person. And those experiences and those people you meet, those can absolutely change you for the better because like in anything in life you have to be able to be multifaceted, you have to be able to sink or swim, and that's the thing that's incredible about us, I think, and something you've instilled in your children as well, is being able to adapt and overcome, to adapt and conquer, like to be go out there and doesn't matter what you're thrown into, just to be able to kind of like adapt to it and thrive in it. That's just such an incredible life skill versus just living in that little bubble or big bubble with those same people constantly, consistently, never having to really put yourself out there, really test the waters because you legit grew up with these people this whole time and you guys just kind of formed your whatever it is, your tribe and whatnot. Like what true life skill is in that, And I'm not knocking anyone. I'm just saying if you get the opportunity, if that happens, go for it. Absolutely go for it. Like whatever that uncomfortableness is, you will come out so much stronger. Like we talk about code switching to where we just adapt and speak differently or whatever, a dialect or an accent or anything like that. Think about that as you as a person, that chameleon that can, whether it be a business meeting or it be some sort of a networking event or anything of that nature, you'll be able to adapt so quickly and really shine in that moment versus honestly someone who's just been sheltered or this, that, and the other. You don't know how to adapt because you haven't had that social pressure before, you haven't had that kind of uneasiness, and if it hits you for the first time and in a big moment, that's going to suck. It's a lot better to do
Yeah,
it when
100%.
it's simply social.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
So I would absolutely encourage it.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Same. I think that I personally think everyone in their life, especially when you're older, like I'd say past the age of 15, you should live somewhere else. And I mean, by living somewhere else, I mean like for at least a month or longer, away
Yeah, yeah,
from being in your comfort zone. I think
yeah. Not a weekend for me.
everyone needs to get out of their comfort zone. I think everyone needs to feel some level of discomfort in their life
Heck
because
yeah.
I just feel like if you get so used to being comfortable it's a negative for you. That's just how I feel because of how much adversity we've had in our lives. It
Yeah.
has served me so well because I never feel uncomfortable walking into a new room or into a new place or meeting someone new. I just it's like it takes a lot for that to happen for me. Like I
It's
can't
standard.
remember the last time.
It's
Yeah,
standard operating
yeah,
procedure. You're
like I
like, all
can't
right,
even
here
remember
we
the
go.
last time I felt uncomfortable walking into a room or a meeting or anything where I was like, "Oh
Or
my God, this
unsure
is
of
uncomfortable."
yourself. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like there may
right.
be that level of like, what's this? Who's that? What's going
Yeah,
on? But you
right.
already know you can tackle it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, I still remember, like, I think to some level, walking into like school for the first time when we moved down there and everything. And now I'm like, it's hard for me to feel that kind of unease because I've done it so many times in my life. So I'd highly recommend that if you haven't done it, it's, I mean, yes, it's going to be scary, but I think the sooner you do it, the better. I think it will serve you in so many ways in your life that you will not realize that until you actually take that leap of faith and try something new and and do that.
And guess what? You might be like me and Rashi and absolutely love it
Yeah,
and end up living all over the world
yeah, 100%. Like,
and
yeah, I
having
think
these
I've only
incredible
now gotten to a point
experiences.
where,
Yeah.
sorry.
And just having these incredible experiences of
Hmm.
literally living all over the world and just being like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've only gotten to the place now where I'm like, I want more stability of one place, but I'm 47, so, and I mean, I actually am not even counting all the cities that I lived in Canada, but not counting those, just counting the ones I've lived in the US. I've lived in 5 countries, 17 cities, and like 6 states. So I haven't counted all the cities in Canada. I'm sure it'd probably be over 20 if I count those. And then, we lived obviously in
Etobicoke,
Ontario.
Malton, Brampton, um, those at least those three. Mississauga,
Yeah.
yeah. So at least four in Canada.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm almost at 20. So it's like I'm at over 20, which is crazy to me. And it's just, it is so, it's such a good character building. I think that people, like I see it because, now the kids they want to stay in one place, which I'm like, I get that. But they've moved around a lot too. Like, so I understand that.
But this is a
But,
really important time for them for that stability too, right? Because
mhm.
lest we forget that yes, we had all kinds of movement, this, that, and the other, but our most formative years, our most, I think, important
Yeah,
years,
middle school, high school, we were in one place. Yeah.
we were planted in one place,
Yeah.
and
Which is what I
that
want for them too. Yeah.
was amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Because yeah, that's not the end of it. That's just an important time. You know what I mean? Where you really, really, I think, get to know you. And don't get me wrong, I had a lot of growth, when I lived in Europe and things of that nature too. But my baseline was set living in Tennessee. You know what I mean? Like that was kind of like that was huge. Just all those people and all those things and those interactions and everything like that. That translated well for me. And the adaptation we had to take from going from Toronto to there, like all of that wrapped into one, served me very well living abroad and whatnot. So I loved it. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And Darius Rucker put us on the map too with his song Wagon Wheel. He talks about Johnson City, Tennessee.
Johnson
So
City, Tennessee.
that's right.
And
So
if
you
you're a
guys can go listen to
NASCAR
that song.
fan, just
Yeah.
remember the Bristol Motor
Yes.
Speedway,
Yes.
right
Bristol Motor
there.
Speedway. Yeah.
It's in Bristol. It's not in Johnson City, so don't get all mad at me, folks. I just mean
Yeah. It's adjacent.
it's
Yes. The
adjacent.
Tri
It's
Cities
just
area
down
is.
the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
just down the road from us. So, we had a lot of folks come in for that. And I didn't really know what that was all about because, again, we had just kind of shown up and whatnot. We were like, people are crazy about this NASCAR stuff, and this Bristol is a big old deal. And now, being older and whatnot, I understand Bristol kicks ass. Because, like, you know what I mean? That is a rock'em sock'em race. So, like, I totally get why that
It's
one's a
like,
highlight.
yeah. I mean, the kids, it's their favorite racetrack on their sim racing thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's their favorite one, which is so crazy because I'm like, I've been there. Like, that's
Yeah.
so crazy to me to be like, wow, it's like, it's
And
such a,
Bristol is once again another small town out there. Like
yeah.
I'm not throwing shade at it. I'm just saying it is a cozy place. You know what I mean? Yet it's one of the epicenters of NASCAR, and that's pretty badass. You know. So nothing but love for Tennessee.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, this episode could go on forever if we actually went through our growing up in Tennessee. Like it was amazing. Amazing. Pure love for Tennessee, John City especially.
Yeah. I mean, listen, people can, chime in if there's something you want to know. We can always do another episode diving more
Absolutely.
into.
I mean, we could go on forever
Yeah.
about growing up there. It was
Yeah.
it was awesome.
I mean,
Country life
listen, guys,
right
I
there.
liked it so much that I left George Washington University because I thought it was going to be a waste of whatever, and came home and went to East Tennessee State University and graduated from there. And I'm doing amazing. So that's how much I liked it, that even though I finally got that freedom at that point in my life, that I was like, I'm going to go back home.
Hey, I went to the University of Pittsburgh, then I went to York University in Toronto, and I came back to ETSU as well. So, you know, who says
Exactly.
you can't go back home?
Yeah.